Here on October 1st, 2023, after 162 games completed, the A's are done with their 56th season of baseball in Oakland. They finish out this three-game series in SoCal right there at Angel Stadium in Anaheim. What a year it's been, and in some cases it wasn't. This is PostGame Live, presented by Toyota for the final time this season. Brody Brazil alongside Dave Stewart. We're here to not necessarily look back at today's game, but to look back at the season as a whole. And I have to say, Stu, with the record for the A's, getting to 50 wins, but also getting to the 110 loss mark, and also everything that happened with potential relocation to Las Vegas, record and relocation, this equates to the worst Oakland baseball season yet.
I agree with you, 100%.
It was very difficult to get through this.
I agree with you. It was a difficult year. It just started off on a bad note. The Las Vegas relocation, that was in the air, and it started, last year, and then
got worse this year.
It just got worse, and it kept lingering. The timing of the announcement, I guess you kind of have to take your hat off to the players for being able to focus as best they could and concentrate on playing the game of baseball with all of that going on. And then, the roster moves and changes and sending players out and trading players, and it's just been, as you said, a long year. With the amount of losses that were mounting up, there was nothing but negative publicity most of the year about the possibilities of losing as many games as 130.
They were on that pace, yeah.
No, Brody, it's not been a good year. I mean, I think our staff and our group, that includes Shooty, Bip, Johnny Gomes, our staff, I think that we've taken a position with this team this year to put it in as positive light as we could have. And there have been some bright points, but there have been a lot of low points. And when you're a fan, yourself and myself, as well as a guy who played for that team, it's just really been a tough year.
That established, that needed to happen first. To your point, there are some things to look at. Introspection on this team. We'll begin with our awards for this season. And you've named an MVP, a best starting pitcher, relief pitcher, and rookie of the year. You want to give any explanations to these, or is there anywhere you want to definitely get into?
A lot of it has to do with exactly what's taken place this year. We haven't had a lot of bright points. Asterio Ruiz, I think, has been a bright point.
Yep.
As far as guys who were playing every day, but then he got hurt.
Right.
Brent Rooker has pretty much been a part of the starting lineup for most of the year. I know he's been in and out of the lineup, but
he was available.
Yeah, he's a guy that I think at the end of the year he's going to end up with over 400 at-bats, which made it easy for me to pick him as the MVP.
All right, I also have some awards for this season. I think we're similar in some areas, but maybe different in a few. Langoliers, to your point, like Rooker, has been around the entire season, has caught so many games, wasn't hampered, knock on wood, by any injuries this year. Hit some home runs, managed a staff and a rotation as best he could, and as well as the bullpen. I would say the season didn't get off to the best start for him, but he definitely found his way as it went on. Paul Blackburn, best starting pitcher, also didn't start the year, was kind of late to the party with the injury, but the team won more games than they lost when he was on the mound, so better than 500 when he pitches. For their record to end up what it did, that's quite the contrast. Trevor May, we're in unison there. Best story of the year, who knew he'd be this team's closer and end up with the 20 save mark that he did. And Oakland Ruiz, for most of this season, I would have put Zach Geloff in that category, but just didn't qualify with the short span. Geloff may be more impressive all around, but for Ruiz to be like the lone bright spot for most of this summer, and his speed, Stu, I'm blown away by it. So there's a lot of different players we want to point out here, and let's actually go into a little bit further detail on some of the individuals, including Brent Rooker. So you mentioned an all-star, Stu, and at the point of the all-star game, how do you say this respectfully about the A's? It wasn't necessarily clear, and a lot of people thought Ruiz could have been the all-star, but it turns out it's Rooker, and by the end of this year, to your point about consistency, probably deservedly so.
Yeah, and I was one of the guys. I thought that Rooker was doing well, but at the time that the All-Star was picked, Ruiz had better offensive numbers.
Runners in scoring position,
with the exception of home
bases.
runs.
Right.
He had better offensive numbers. And so I was kind of surprised that he was not picked as the all-star. But Rooker, from start to finish, he's not spent any considerable time on the IL. I think he's had a short stint, but not very long.
Right.
So he's been available, as you said.
He just struggled.
Available.
He struggled in the middle point of the season. They didn't use him as much, but he found his way here down the stretch, hitting a ton of homers. And quite honestly, making the roster this year, Rooker and Noda, you're thinking, wait, Christian Pache is going to make this team. He doesn't. They trade him away. Rooker and Noda impressed this year with the bat. Shea Langoliers, I mentioned him as my team MVP, and I also should have qualified by saying this. I had a hard time with that. There's a lot of players that were in the conversation. There was no real fully clear-cut MVP, but I give Shea a lot of credit for the durability this year, for managing the staff this year. I think it's hard to catch in this league. It's hard to grow as a catcher in this league, but he did that this year.
I agree with you 100%. It's been, I think defensively, his play was always there. I don't think there was ever a short day for him when it came to defensive play, and that displayed itself by the amount of runners that he threw out.
Yeah.
Great defensive play from him, catch and throw. And then I think the second piece for him was trying to figure out the league and what pitches to call and what fingers were going to be best in what situations. And then that part eventually came along. And then the last part of it, I think we've seen a better offensive player. Probably as late July to this point, his offense has picked up, and he's really done a good job offensively. And
you saw it on the screen, his second MLB season, but his first full season last year got called up halfway. So to get that first full season under your belt, and to your point, to get adjustments made on you and then to return the favor on those adjustments and grow and develop, I think that's what we've seen with Langoliers this season. Esteury Ruiz came back to the A's in that Sean Murphy deal with Atlanta, right? But everybody forgets because Ruiz didn't come from Atlanta. That was a 3-team trade. He came from the Brewers. There was not a lot of hype or expectations surrounding this individual, but very quickly into this season, with the amount of bags he stole, it was quite clear he is something to watch for the future. No doubt about it. He's a very, very gifted player, and his best gift, which is what keeps him on the field, is speed. He does have one thing that I liken to Ricky Henderson, and that's when he's on the base, he doesn't care who's pitching or who's catching. I'm running. He is going to run. I love it. That's what you have to do. Yeah. You have to be relentless in that category to do what he's done this year and to steal the amount of bases that he's stolen this year. He doesn't care. And I think some of it is just it's skill. I think some of it he has picked up little tips and pointers that pitchers give to him to say, okay, this is the time to go. Yeah. And then I think there are some times when he just says, hey, I'm going. Green light constantly in the last couple weeks here of the season. And if there are two things for him, just looking forward, make sure you get on base. Like, you got to up that walk rate a little bit. It's amazing the amount of plate appearances he had this year versus the low amount of walks. That ratio, I mean, just for his sake to get on, has got to improve. And I think he's also working on the defensive play in center field. I know there's been some criticism there. I'm not even fully on board with it. I think he's fine out there. But I do know that as a converted infielder to outfielder, he's going to get better out there. Well, yeah, but I think for his defensive play in the outfield this year, I think that there is work that needs to be done, as we all do. I don't think anybody's blind to the fact that he needs to take better outs out there, and those things will happen the more he is out there. When it comes to the offensive side of the game, as Ricky said, when he learns who he is and when he learns to control the strike zone, which means be more disciplined, which will create more walks. When those things happen, then he's going to become a much better offensive player. And this kid is this kid's not a dummy, I guess is the best way to put it. He's a very smart kid. Yeah. And so those things are going to come to him with more playing time. And that's the player that you have to watch out for. This kid right now, you have to watch out for him. Yeah, but the future of him. But when he gets more plate discipline and really learns his strike zone,
he's going to be very dangerous.
I'm already on board, but I've been on board with Esteury Ruiz. I'm also very much on board with Zach Geloff. And Stu, if he had just been around for more of this season doing what he's been doing, he could have easily, for me, won Rookie of the Year on this team and MVP of this season for this team. We just didn't get to see him as much. Had some struggles, just a little bit, but hit home runs, was consistent. In last night's game, had 3 hits. This guy is a monster in the batter's box.
I mean, yeah, if you just combine the numbers and make it a full season, just the numbers that he's put up to this point, I mean, he's hit over 30 home runs in a season is what he's done.
Right, with the major and minor league season, right.
And I mean, he has done some pretty significant things to put himself on the map here.
Well, but here's the question, right? He's on the map, but what do we project for him for the future? I know a guy named Chapman that played here. I know a guy named Olson that played here. Are we already putting him in that same category? Is that too much pressure for this young man?
You know what? I don't think it's any pressure at all, because I don't think he's looking at baseball in that way.
Yeah.
I think he's looking at baseball as this is just a fun game.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Play to the best ability that I can. I like the group of people that I'm playing with. And I'm just coming here every day just to show how good I am. And that's the player I think he is.
Yep.
And when you allow him to do that, I mean, it's limitless. His ceiling is there's no limit to what this kid can do. So when we talk about Chapman, the one thing that's remained with Chapman, even when his offense has failed, is he's been a superior defensive player.
Yes, platinum.
Yes, this young man, I can say this without, because there's something when you look at a player, and I used to, when I used to go out and scout players or go see college athletes or go see the high school athletes, when I used to go out and see them, you look at the field and you look at the field and you say, you see one player and you say, man, this guy doesn't belong here.
Right.
Geloff is that guy.
You know. Yeah.
Geloff is that guy. When you look at him, you say, he got a little bit of something that's different from the rest.
Yeah.
And I don't see him losing that unless he loses his passion for the game.
When I saw his parents show up in the last couple weeks at the Coliseum, where they've been coming for years wearing the gold A jerseys, I'm like, I know this kid, I know his family. I don't really know him yet, but I feel like I know him, and I love him already. Let's transition to Tony Kemp, and an interesting story here, Stu, because he's been around the A's for, I say so long, but the start of the 2020 season, think what he has endured and seen. Transitioning from a playoff-bound team every season, and did get to the postseason in 2020 with the A's, to their complete overhaul of the roster, to now 200 lost seasons in a row, to this, the worst Oakland record season in their 56 years of existence. And this is probably Tony Kemp's 4th and final season wearing the A's jersey.
You know what? There's no,
there you are.
Better compliment for this young man.
Yeah.
He is a professional.
Yep.
And when you compliment somebody in that way, you've given them the highest compliment you can give them as a baseball athlete. So we'll take it away from the best, from the baseball side of this, and then we'll bring it to the humanitarian side of this. There are a lot of baseball athletes, man, that go out and play the game, and they make really, really good money playing this sport. Tony Kemp's not the highest paid player in this game.
Right.
He's spending dollars, time, and when you spend your dollars and your time on people that you don't know, what better can you say about him?
And things that matter to him.
Great representative Tony Kemp, great representative of his family.
I totally agree. Let's get into our highlight zone presented by Mancini Sleep World. Top 5 moments of the season. How about the 1st through 3rd of September? Exactly a month ago, the A's swept a series against the Halos. They didn't sweep a lot of series, but they were good in this one. They were dominant in that series.
You know, they were going to show something. You know, you can't go through what they did early on in the year and not sweep somebody.
Right.
And so, I mean, the Angels, though they're a good team, it's a good team to sweep.
It took them till May to win their first series, let alone sweep a series eventually. How about in May, on the 9th day at Yankee Stadium in the Bronx, that's Jordan Diaz, not once, not twice, 3 dingers at Yankee Stadium, of all places.
I mean, who is this guy?
Come on, you keep saying that, but he had a great end of the last year.
Who is this guy?
It's Jordan Diaz.
When he hit those home runs, I said, who is this guy?
That dude could swing the bat, no
Yes,
doubt
he
about
can.
that. Trevor May went on the IL with anxiety mid to late April. It took him about a month and a half to fully come back. When he did, he assumed the closer's role, and he notched 20 saves by the end of this season.
If there's such a thing as comeback player in the same season,
Yes.
he's it.
Fantastic job. He took over a very tough role, and honestly, we are just so thrilled with how things finished this year for Trevor May. Opening night, Stu, the A's out-duel Ohtani. They were down 1-0 most of the evening. This was the bottom of the 8th. They scored 2 runs. They come back and win, and at this point, everything was great. It was just a typical A's baseball season and start to the year.
You know,
Miss those days.
I do, but you know, they have shown this all season long, and this is a fact. They have shown resilience.
Yep.
They've shown resilience all season long, and it's been a tough year to do that.
Well, the A's won 7 games in a row on the 13th of June. You may also recall by seeing the shirts in the background here, that was the night of the reverse boycott at the Coliseum. Largest crowd. The fans got to send their message and make their point and show their displeasure, and the A's on the field did not disappoint. We wish that wasn't a thing this season, but it was, and the A's represented by their fans so greatly in that one. The A's lost 8 in a row twice this year. Their season high was 11 losses in a row. More on a potential rotation for next year after these messages. We mentioned turning points of the season earlier. This is Trevor May, presented by Toyota. Since the 23rd of May, when he came back off the IL and everything he's done then, the 20 saves, Stu, the A's getting to the 50 win mark, and he had 20 saves notched. A pretty good ratio there. He signed a 1-year, $7 million contract for this season. His return next year, probably unlikely, and I say that because he's probably earned a chance somewhere else and is probably going to get paid even more because of this year and what he did.
Well, sometimes you just have to look at where you're comfortable, Brody, and I think this is a comfort spot for him. I know he's had a good year, and maybe he can go out there and earn more on the market. We don't know.
Yeah.
For the A's to be able to get him this year, there may not have been very many takers.
Yeah. Well, they gave him a chance, and he did the best he could with it.
So sometimes there's comfort in where you are.
Yep.
And we'll see what happens.
I mean, I would like to have him back. I'm not trying to push him out the door.
I most definitely would.
There's
like
going to be
have
some
him back.
competition for his services.
Yeah.
All right, we talked earlier about a rotation for next year and what things might look like. These are some of the names, the short list, so to speak, for you right now. And a lot of this depends on an offseason and some free agent signings and whatever, but these are minor leagues innings pitched. You requested to see this in their career for the A's rotation. Why did you want to see this?
Well, because I think it's important for the fans to know those innings, with the exception of Blackburn, Blackburn is closer to the amount of minor league innings that I pitched.
He pitched a lot of years, though, a lot of years in the minor leagues.
For me, I spent 4.5 years in the minor leagues. It was said in the Dodgers organization that you needed to pitch 700 or 800 minor league innings before you would be a regular in the major leagues.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to see those just so the fans could understand that we've got a young group of kids here that are pitching in the big leagues far beyond the time that they're ready, in my opinion. Because it takes innings, it takes trials and tribulations, it takes bumps and valleys, it takes peaks, it takes all types of things in the minor leagues to really learn your job.
Right.
And that means you have to pitch innings. And so these kids are having to do what you should be getting in the minor leagues, they're having to do it in the major leagues.
Yeah, well, Mason Miller with fewer than 50 minor league innings under his belt, and he's already here at the show, and he'll be fine, but to your point, maybe you want to hone your craft as best as possible, and the A's situation dictates that they've got to be here sooner than that. Okay, our final segment coming up after these messages. Stu and I, for the final time this season, we will say goodbye to 2023 in a bunch of different ways. Can't believe we're down to a final couple minutes here in a final segment on Toyota Postgame Live for the 2023 season. It's Brody and Stu for the last time, and we've known each other for a handful of years now. We've worked a lot of shows together. I've been a grumpy individual this year. I've reacted to a lot.
It's been a little different.
A lot of things that have happened.
Yeah.
It's been a different year. we've lived under the uncertainty of this team's future now for about 6 months. And I want to say thank you first, you in a second, but first to the fans, everybody who's supported the shows we do, the product that NBC Sports California makes, because if you're mad, if you're frustrated, if you're confused by all of this, you have every right to be. And we just appreciate that you're actually here right now, still with us. I do want to say that.
I second that. I think that the A's fans are the best fans in baseball. And, you hear every team, you hear players from every team say that we have the best fans in baseball. And you know what? It's true. Every city does have the best fans in baseball when it comes to their team. Fortunately for me, I've been here all of my life.
Yep.
And I know the Oakland fans, and I know what you mean, and I know what you meant to me, and what you mean to these young players out there. And so I give you the utmost of praise and the utmost of gratitude for everything that you bring every day.
Well, I also want to say thank you to you, Stu, as well as Shooty and Bip and Johnny Gomes and our entire production crew here. You never know what's going to happen. I mean, the A's will play in Oakland in 2024, but after that, the next time you see this team, their future might be a little bit more defined. And if this is the last time, if this isn't the last time, thank you so much, everybody, for your support. For Stu, I'm Brody. 2023 is complete.